Look at me go.
Here he goes, here he goes.
Okay, welcome everybody to this regulated scheduled board meeting for the Tahoe Public Utility District. If you would all please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. Do we have any members in the audience that would like to speak on a subject that's not on the agenda? Okay. So let's move on to item 3. Are there any corrections to the agenda or the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent agenda and the waiver agenda.
I'll second that.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you all. Action items. 6A, sewer line patch repair. Doug?
Yes, that's me.
That's you.
Good afternoon. Unfortunately, I'm not up here to tell you about a catastrophic sewer spill, but I am up here to ask that we approve agenda item 6A, sewer patch repair services. We opened bids September the 10th, and we only had one responsive bid, and it was from Hoffman Southwest Corporation doing business as Pro Pipe, who we've had up here the last approximately 8 years doing our patch repair. Linda and I talked about it and felt it was an adequate bid, and it was the only bid that we received. Linda went to extensive processes and called people trying to get more than just the one bid to see if we could get the prices lowered or however that would work, and we still only got the one bid. The district has 26 pipe defects that we'd like to fix, and it comes out to $71,500. But also in the bid items is a Meskwaki Drive where we had a spill in April, and they were caused from root intrusion coming from laterals from lots owned by the CTC and the Forest Service. The CTC has 8 lots there, and their portion of the final bill would be $22,000 to have those lined, and the U.S. Forest Service has 5 lots there, which their portion would be $13,750 to also have lined, so we don't have this problem ongoing. I've talked to CTC, and they're getting a contract ready because they're in the middle of their budgets, and I'll be talking to them more about signing a contract with them to get repayment from them. The Forest Service is pushing back a little bit about who really owns the laterals, but I have asked for expedited meetings with the person I'm dealing with there and their engineers to see if we can get something formatted, because I've also told them that it will be ongoing with our extensive TV programming now that we're on doing live. We're going to have more of these. So hopefully in the future we get the contract with the Forest Service also. And I only budgeted this year for us, the district, $47,000, and our portion has come to $71,500. But Paul assures me that he'll open his wallet and give me a hand there. Do you have any questions?
So when the other vendors that did not bid were contacted, did they give the typical reasons, too much work going on right now, that kind of stuff?
I was mostly interested in ABC, who was very competitive. They had done some work with us a few years back. They did not bid because they thought Pro Pipe was so competitive, didn't like the prices. Well, Pro Pipe's prices have gone up. last year, I'm not remembering exactly,
It was 2,500 per 2-foot patch.
yeah, it went from 1850 per each to 2,500. This year, it's up another 10%. We did have a very short window at this time, as far as we want everything patched by the end of the year. And but we are, with the new camera truck, they are noticing a lot more repairs that need to be done, and we're looking at a larger time period from, say, March 1st through November, and we're hoping to get more bids then. I do think that ABC was interested, and I'm hopeful that we'll get a bid from them this coming spring. And yeah, I'll call them again.
I'm interested in what the Forest Service had to say, because I can see, their processes take forever.
Yes.
I can see them holding us up by saying, no, we want to dispute this. And so is there I don't want to give them a break any more than they give us a break on this. We need to wait. And if you're going to be doing it and finding lots of them, which I suspect you will, because 80% of the land here is owned by the USFS, we need to resolve that and make sure that we get something in writing quick, because you can't cut them a special deal on that.
I totally agree.
I know you agree. And by patch, are you talking about patching the asphalt under the pipe?
No, because we do this all going inside. The pro pipe comes in and goes inside the main. We don't have to tear any ground up. We don't have to dig. It's trenchless technology, and there's a fiberglass 2-foot.
It's like a straight line.
Yeah, exactly, and it goes across where the lateral enters the main, and that will keep the roots from coming in. And Meskwaki is where, like I said, it was caused by roots coming in from all these different laterals. And that's why, so even though they have asked us to not do the work, this is work I feel we need to do now to keep, so we don't have this problem and we impact the residents out there any more than we already have.
Their budgets are tight, just like everybody does.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this Meskwaki. This is the spill we got in the news about when we spilled in the middle of that neighborhood last in April, and we've changed some protocols about that around that issue that the community has been very thankful for. One of the commitments we made to those customers is we've had some issues in that area previously, and because we had this kind of recurring issue that we had not addressed effectively, we had indicated that we were going to go in and do this work. And so in the case with the Forest Service, my recommendation would be that we go ahead and do these linings of these and patching and blocking off of these laterals on this one particular location and continue to push and work with the Forest Service on future projects. But because we had this spill and had this issue with the community, that we go ahead and do it in this case and then negotiate with the Forest Service as we go forward. But that is something I think we definitely need clarification from you on as the board, that when you make this vote, we're asking for you to approve $107,000. That includes the money for the Forest Service's laterals. So we are asking you to approve us blocking off those laterals and then continuing to negotiate with the Forest Service going forward.
I mean, obviously, they're unused laterals, so.
That's exactly right.
That commitment was made both to the community at meetings on site and to LaHub to make sure that this spill wouldn't happen again. So
I get the commitment. It's just once they get us moving down the road without having to pay.
And that's one reason Doug has pushed back on the Forest Service and requested an immediate meeting so that we can get in front of them and really explain what the problems are and try and get them to move off their position at this point. They haven't said no. I think they have just said we want to talk about it. We're going to try and accelerate that conversation and get it done before this work takes place. But in the event that we're not able to do so, again, I think staff's recommendation is that we go ahead and do that work. That's just on this case.
And staff's recommendation would be is that even if this group of local agency staff decide no, that because it's 13,000 and more in the future, that we raise the discussion level up the line at the Forest Service, saying that this really is a responsibility of theirs. They've got a lot of lots out there, and I think we'll protect. I think we have a very obvious case of protecting the environment by doing this.
CCC does a lot.
And the CTC has looked at the same situation and agreed that the best way to protect the environment, the cheapest way, is to join our patching, slip line project and get their lot sealed off. I mean, on CTC project, it has cost.
We've had 2 years now contract with CTC. This is a special case because we're jumping in right in the middle after we've already done some repairs for this year, and so they got to go back and recheck their budgets and write a new contract, and that's why we're trying to get, as Linda said, we go back out in February and try to get it in everybody's fiscal year so they can start properly preparing for what's coming and what we find as we go along.
Okay, Chris, did you have something you wanted to add?
He said exactly what I was going to come up and say. It's one of those situations that I believe we're kind of stuck. I don't want to go through again what we went through at Meskwaki. They are causing a problem. I don't think at this point they really realize the importance of what we're talking about. So the meetings that we're trying to expedite and have as soon as possible, I think in the long run we'll be okay. Like I said, we are trying to do it before the work starts, but there is a strong chance that we may end up, if you approve, go ahead and just pay for it under this circumstance and then move forward with negotiation.
Right about the money later.
Yeah.
I think it's one.
There is a problem. It did cause problems out there, and we really don't want to go through it again.
And it will cause problems.
Yes, it
will.
is.
It will, very rapidly.
No,
I would suggest you can go and cut it.
And these are lots that they're never going to be developed. It's like we might as well just shut those laterals off and get rid of the issue.
My question is to what extent are we going to continue to pay? And,
Well, I hope we will bring that back to you. We will bring those results of our negotiations with the Forest Service outside of this one particular contract. We will bring our results, our negotiations back to you certainly for your comments and input, and hopefully, and maybe support if we do need to go to the Forest Service. We'll bring it back to you.
Ultimately, when I would say we're not going to pay, they're going to pay. They're just not going to pay right now, even though we're going to do work right now.
We are spending money monthly, just with routine maintenance on that line, both TVing and hydroing to make sure that line stays clear.
if we're doing the right thing for the environment.
Yes.
And not necessarily the right thing financially. But I'll go on with it this time and then we'll see.
We'll keep pursuing this way. It doesn't mean they're not going to pay for it.
Okay.
Definitely.
I think once they realize them not stepping up to the plate and taking care of their laterals and what it can cause, like the sewer spill on Meskwaki, and the liability that they could probably be facing by not correcting their problems, I think you'll have a different attitude from them.
And I don't think they have it budgeted. It's a surprise to them. So I get that. I just, the negotiation is not the word I would want to use. Okay. Well, that's just my opinion.
And we agree. Like I said, we're just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard spot.
I get it. You're doing the right thing for the environment. I appreciate that.
Okay, any other comments, discussion? So let's get a motion.
I move that we award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, Hoffman Southwest Corporation, doing business as Professional Pipe Services, in the amount of $107,250 for sewer line patch repair within the district service area. Secondly, authorize staff to allow for changes, size estimates, or repair site additions in the contract not to exceed an additional 10% of the contract price.
Second. Yeah. Thanks, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that passes 5-0. Okay, we're going to move on to 6B, and we discussed this extensively at the last meeting, but Paul, did you want to add a little bit to this?
Just very little. Obviously, yeah, for your consideration is ordinance 569-18, and like you said, we did discuss it extensively regarding the transfer of sewer capacity from one parcel to another for the affordable housing projects. We included the red line strikeout ordinance so you could see that we incorporated the comments that we received from the public. So unless there is any further comments or questions, then staff recommends approval of the ordinance as presented, but also incorporating the red line strikeouts and additions.
I'm extremely happy that we've done this, and I appreciate Chris's help on it, and I appreciate all our staff, Cam, Paul, Shannon, Richard, and others. I've heard out in the community good things, and last night by accident, I was at an event sitting next to a guy I didn't know, and I heard him talking about what the utility district did, and I guess it's the guy that has the project, or potential project over in back of the Lake Tahoe Pizza Company. And he says he has the potential for 210 doors, is what he called it, which means 210 front doors. And he says, I cannot yet make money on the deal, but, he says, I can't do it for free, but you guys have sort of started the ball rolling. And he says, I'm hoping to see what else can happen. He says, because I can certainly build something else that makes me money, but I can bring in 210 homes. And I think he's talking about the homes that just drop in, 1,200 square foot, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath type home. So that was really encouraging. I didn't realize when they were talking about it before that it was that big of a project or potential project. But he says, you guys started it. Thank you very much. Hope others do too. Great.
We also have someone from the public who would like to comment on this.
Hello, thank you. My name is Karen Fink. I'm from the Community Food Progress for Tahoe, and we just wanted to commend and thank the STPAD staff and the board for bringing this forward and incorporating the public's comments. We feel that this has the potential to save some affordable housing developments thousands of dollars, and also appreciate that you're part of a basin-wide effort to look at ways to remove barriers to affordable housing, and hopefully this will continue to inspire the other agencies to look at ways to change their own code to remove barriers as well. So thank you.
Great, thank you for coming. Is anybody else? Jim, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm going to vote for this. I think we need to vote on housing. But I think the public needs to understand that this is a cost in our district, and we're losing revenue. We're losing on the order of $2 million a year in connection fees. And you figure that out with 17,000 connections here. Each one of those connections, everybody in this basin is spending another $115 a year to subsidize the reduction of the costs. And up to now, most of those costs have been for, have been saved by spec builders. People are building houses to sell, or people are coming out of the Bay Area that had enough money and didn't have to qualify for bank loan. Anyway, we're talking about $105, $15 a year for everybody. That's a subsidy.
Not related to affordable housing issue here.
Yeah, well,
not related to this
this is the connection fees that we reduce.
Right, that's a different issue.
And this 2,400, I'm surprised that there are that many connections out there. But the reason that the fees were reduced was for low-income housing. We now have 2,400 connections or sewer units out there. I think we need to go back and restore that connection fee back to what it should have been and get those revenues back that we sorely need.
Yeah, and just briefly, they already paid for them, they bought those units.
Sure.
The other is that once they put them in use, we'll get, what, roughly $100 a month from each one.
That's why I'm gonna vote for this, but I'm just saying that with all of those sewer units that are out there, that's gonna cover a lot of low-income housing units. We need to go back and restore the connection fee that was set up, 10 years ago. We set that up for long-term increase so that people would be buying in and paying the true cost of developing.
It's probably why we don't have any housing now.
Well, we're not gonna have much more. We're limited on the number of houses in the city that can be built each year to about 30-something.
So you kind of a counter argument to this, wait a minute. On one hand, you say it's really important, on the other hand, you say there's not that many, so I guess we.
Well, but it adds up. It does add up. That's in the county too. There's more out in the county. But when you talk about the city, it's about 30-something. So anyway, I think the public should understand the cost to us. And these sewer units are owned by individuals, and some of them aren't. They can be turned around and the city or the individuals can sell those. Will they be receiving the money, or will we get a portion of any of that? Just to answer your first question, the majority of those sewer units that aren't being used or in access are privately owned. The publicly owned ones are in the hundreds, the privately owned ones are over 2,000. So, and then to your second question, we are not charging anything for the transfer of sewer units. There's a $100 fee to cover our staff costs, inspection, we make counts and stuff, but we don't regulate what the agreement is between the actual owners of the sewer units and the recipients. If the current owners want to charge for these sewer units, we're not going to be a policeman or detectives being out there trying to uncover that. That's up to them. So when this transfer ordinance was in place in the past, there was a black market out there on sewer units, with the ceiling being obviously what the cost was, to buy new ones for the district. But it's basically up to the owners of those sewer units who, if they want to donate them for tax write-off, we're assuming the public agencies would donate them to encourage workforce housing. But who knows what the private owners are going to want to do. So that's up to them.
But ours has to have a public designation that meets the cities or counties definition.
That's any of these 2,400.
Yes, right.
Any of those that are government.
So it isn't just some guy selling to some other guy for a big house somewhere.
Yeah.
It's for
Right.
projects.
Right.
And I'm telling you, the need is desperate. It's desperate beyond measure. And we're not really in the business of housing, but somebody had to start the ball rolling. And I'm glad that I'm an elected official and was able to give it a nudge. We'll see if it works or not. You might be right. I hope you're wrong.
Well, I think that we're doing this. We've given up a lot of revenue, and it's putting the district at risk for not having enough money to fix some of the things that we know that are out there.
Those units have been sitting there for 10 years. Nobody's used them. It's time to put them to use and us to get the charges.
You do. Like I said, I still for this. I'm just saying that people should understand the cost to the district for reducing the connection fees, the other ones and so forth. So,
Well, I appreciate your comments and sometimes you're right and I wish you weren't, but I'm hoping you're wrong this time. So I move that we approve ordinance number 569-18, amending Division 1 and Sections 4.5 and 4.8.14 of Division 4 of the Administrative Code regarding the transfer of sewer capacity for affordable housing after incorporating the red line strikeouts and additions.
I'll second that.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Good. Thank you, everyone. Stephen, we've been waiting 2 weeks for this.
I know, I kept you all in suspense. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the wastewater treatment plant generator project and some of the discussions we've had internally along with staff regarding what to do this winter, since the project will not be completed until next July at the earliest. So during those discussions, obviously one of the reasons we're doing the project is because of the concern with the reliability of the existing large generator that we have. And so staff has talked through this internally, and we came up with a plan that we feel will best protect the district and sort of provide an insurance policy. The concern about the generator was that when we went around and talked to the people who really run the thing, Cliff and Jared, who have to maintain it, we said, what do you think the chances of this thing starting this winter when we need it? And they said 50-50, and that sort of rang a lot of alarm bells to us as far as the criticality of that unit and the criticality to our wastewater treatment plant process. Without it, we can't export wastewater out of the site. We have to use our ERVs, and those ERVs have a fairly large capacity, but when you're in the middle of a large storm event and we're getting a lot of flow in like we did in 2017, you don't have a ton of time before those things are full, and then you have no place to put water. So the criticality of the generator is very important to being able to export water out of the plant during those large storm events, making sure that we have a sufficient capacity in our ERDs when we need it. And so what we looked at was running two 500 kilowatt generators for about 4 months for the winter season for this year only, to kind of cover that, provide that redundancy that in case that generator does not start up when we need it. So we went out and we got a quote from Cashman, who we rented the generator for the blower building out there last year when we had an issue with the backup blower. So we've got a quote from them, and then we also, talking with Linda and talking with her about, that's one of the reasons that we had to wait 2 more weeks, was to make sure that we've gone through and done our due diligence on finding the best deal for the district. So we did find another supplier who could provide 2 generators. Our quote was higher. So in the end, Cashman was the source that we wanted to use. Other benefits is that Cashman equipment, our staff are trained on their equipment. We have an agreement with them that we can do the service on the generators before we return them, so we don't get additional service charges once they're returned. And the other benefit is that Cashman has guaranteed us that they will have those generators from their Las Vegas yard and have additional backups in Reno in case there's any issue with those with the ones that are on site, that they can get something from Reno fairly quickly. And we have previous positive experience with their performance, their parts availability, and so we feel like this is a very, in lieu of the potential for fines if something were to go wrong, a very reasonable insurance policy to make sure that we can make it through this winter before the new generator is online before next winter.
Sure. I can't remember what it was that it was going to cost us to replace each generator. I thought it was like $2 million or something like that. Would it be less expensive to just rent them each season?
Well, we also have the issue that we are required by the state as part of our district permit to have backup power on site, and our current generator will not meet the air quality requirements. So theoretically, we would not be in compliance with our permitting requirements from the state, and we didn't have a backup generator.
No, I'm saying, is it less expensive for us to rent them each year, which would comply, versus buying and building a whole new set of generators?
So
I don't know the math on that.
The 500 kilowatt generators, 2 of them are actually, they're enough to get us through the winter, but they're not enough of capacity that we need. We would need 4 of them, and we really don't have space to put 4 at this point. And so,
Would one of them empty the ERV? How long would it take it to?
I'm thinking of this as the rent versus buy.
Yeah, that's
kind of
what I'm
scenario, right? And I think to Steve's point, the minimum that we see is the minimum that we're renting here obviously doesn't meet the whole need. The other issue is this is for a few months in the winter versus what is in our agreement, which is that we're going to have backup power supply 365 days a year. So you could take this number and expand it, maybe multiply by 8 in order to come up with an annual rental number.
Okay.
So there's definitely some different scenarios there. I don't believe that we have thoroughly looked at the rental option, but our initial kind of off the cuff, back of the napkin calculations say that this is a better solution. The project where we're building the generator is a better solution overall for us as an organization.
okay, the way I do know that, we did pre-negotiate the price for the new generator on the project, and it was, for the generator unit itself, is about $600,000. So if we're $50,000 for 4 months, and we're only getting half of our capacity, then it's not going to take very long until we would.
That's the answer.
This is something we've discussed in the operations
Yeah, I
committee.
didn't read the notes on this.
We don't have a choice. I mean, this is a stupid thing. We shouldn't be in this situation. But if we can't afford, as we said, to not have a backup, because if we spill, I mean, we'll bring all over us again. And, this should have been done years ago. We wouldn't be in this situation.
We did it years ago.
We didn't do it.
It seems like it was yesterday.
Well, it's been a higher priority for years, and we should have done it, and now we don't have the thing in place because we haven't got the money yet. It's a grant that's coming, and hopefully that'll work out, but, I mean, why should we have to spend $60,000 for something just to cover, a period of time when we're not relying on the equipment that we have in place?
Yeah.
Well, then, it was more complicated than that. There was state revolving fund issues, there was other issues. So the timing would have been done sooner if not for extraneous things that we had no control over. So that this $50,000 is really kind of an insurance policy against those environmental issues that you were worried about.
I'm glad you guys found this alternative. 500 kW seems like it would move a lot of water.
It will power up our export pumps, so we'll be able to run those in export as we normally would during a regular operation. It will not operate the entire plant, but it will operate those pumps.
Will it'll move the water out to
move it fast. And then,
that's all we need.
Yep.
So my question is, if the power fails, how long would it take for those ERVs would be like breathing? Like where you guys would be like,
It obviously depends on flow, right? So we have 60 million gallons of capacity.
worst case scenario, like New Year's Eve or something?
So based on 2017 flows, we were seeing around 12 to 14 million gallons a day coming through.
That was during that rain on snow.
That was during the rain.
So that's one we would want to use.
So 60 million gallons up there, that flow, you're looking at maybe 5 days.
5 days of continuous, so that rain on
Yes,
snow.
well, that's continuous incoming flow.
Right.
No power and no way to.
Yeah, that would be kind of minimal.
95 too. It was right up to the edge.
We did run the generator in 2017 for about 3 weeks, right? Something like that. So we're relying on it.
Power source coming in, and so we chose to stay on the large generator just until the power's stabilized.
Yeah.
We were getting more than just those 4 or 5 days. It's a continuation. We dropped off for a couple of weeks after that, so it didn't get back to normal.
It was plenty here in
83, 86.
It was
We
18
did not
million
have,
gallons.
we had ERV, we did not have a standby power at the plant. We spilled big time
Yeah.
in 83 and 86. And as a result of that, the Hunt ordered us to either build another ERV or install standby power.
I think it was in 95, they drove back and forth during the day trying to find out if we were spilling or not. They were just kind of.
Well, we actually approached the Hunt and said in 95, it wasn't a standby power issue, it was the export line. had been damaged by the storm. And we actually had to draw plans as to how we were going to release water out of the ERB to minimize damage. And here in the basin, we had discussions with Mohammed's to have to do that. But we didn't have to. The beeline repaired in time to back in operation.
I'd also point out about this issue, and this is part of this question for you, Steve. These will run the blowers, am I correct, as well?
Well,
one of these will be available to do that?
No, we have the backup blowers, backup.
Okay, so the backup blowers.
Yeah, the backup blower would still be used in a power outage situation, so.
When the backup blower failed and we went through that process, we had to rent a generator. I don't remember the size of it. It was about what size?
It was 500.
It was 500. The initial one that they were bringing, they couldn't get it over the mountain. And Cliff, you tell me the issues. When we tried to bring a generator of this size in the winter, they couldn't get it here. They got one here and it failed, and then they couldn't get the next one here. I don't remember the whole situation.
The delivery truck that was bringing it broke down on top of Spooner.
Okay.
And if we had known about that, I would have gone over with one of our trucks and picked it up.
Okay.
But they didn't let me know until the next day.
So you knew where my questions were going with that, and you answered my questions. Awesome. Okay.
And this is basically going to be backups for the backup.
No, I know.
Our large generator, and run it every month, starts and runs. The only thing I'm concerned about are the controls and the power output regulation. That's where we have most of our problem with it. And that's where we come up, we close that breaker and we just, kind of hold our breath and make sure everything clicks in and runs the way it's supposed to be.
So we'll have the rental ones this year, and we'll have our old ones just.
Correct. They're going to be the backup in case our large main one does not operate.
Yeah, I see it. I just figured you already had the math done, but I needed to ask because it's my job.
I would like to, again, express my appreciation to Cliff and Jared, who's not here, who's our electrician head, for bringing this issue to us and bringing this to the fore that, hey, we've got this serious concern. As Steve said, they think it's 50-50 every time we start this thing, and that wasn't an acceptable risk. That they brought that issue to the fore so that we could address it instead of being in the middle of the winter in the construction project and going, oh, it doesn't work now. So I really appreciate staff.
And I appreciate you listening to us now. We've been saying this for way before you were here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else have anything to add or discuss?
Okay, so I'm requesting that the board, one, find that due to special circumstances, it's not possible to request formal bids to rent 2 large generators, and 2, to approve a purchase order to caption equipment for the rental of 2 500 kilowatt generators from December 1st, 2018 through March 1st, 2019, in the estimated amount of $49,417.60.
So, I'll second that. We're elected, like.
We got Kelly and Jim.
40 Honda generators.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. That's 5 minutes.
Well, what's this, what, payment claims? Okay, payment claims.
I'll move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $1,983,068.87.
I'll second.
And another 5-0. I guess that moves us on to standing and ad hoc committee reports. Under A on this, it's listed the Lakeside Park Associates Committee update. Did you guys have a meeting or is there one scheduled?
We had a meeting.
Oh, you had a meeting?
On Monday. And so the reason, you want to put forward, Jim, or?
Well, why don't you know more about it, you've had this contacts that you were just reading us.
Yes, the issue is, as if you remember, way back actually several years ago, we had conversations with Lakeside Park about the water service for the area, Park Avenue to State Line and from Highway 50 back. And in that area, there was a mix of services prior to 2007 between Lakeside and the district. And we had, after discussion, we had general agreement that prior to 2007 it was approximately an 80-20 split, 80% being Lakeside, 20% being the district. And then we have had, then there was that big project was permitted, and service to the convention center was going to be, the district was going to serve the convention center, and Lakeside was going to serve Hotel B. And Hotel B was approximately what the Lakeside Park had served in that area prior to 2007. So they were happy that they were basically getting back all of the prior service. And obviously our service was an increase. Well, then when that project hit the skids and went out, there was a long time where nothing happened over there. Then as the new development started to happen under the umbrella of the permit, remember that we had discussions and some negotiations with Lakeside, and they had requested us basically sign an agreement that the service that we made for the commercial frontage along the 6 parcels on Highway 50 was basically the district replacement for what was there prior to 2007. And we said, well, the only thing that was permitted was the convention center, and that the 2-inch service that was serving the commercial was obviously not anywhere near what we had been serving in that area prior to that. So we said, well, there's no hurry. Why don't we just see what develops as we go forward? Since that time, Zalanta came along, and that was in the area of the project of the Hotel B on the original plans, and it was also the first service that Lakeside got back. So we said, hey, no problem, you guys serve that. And then there was still discussion of, well, is that you guys willing to sign an agreement saying that you only get the commercial frontage? So we said, no, let's see what happens. So then phase 2 of Zalanta came along. That is the plans to have Lakeside serve that. But then recently, plans, we found out that plans, or at least architectural plans, have been developed for the two stories of residential housing above the commercial frontage on Highway 50. But there was no, when we finally got the plans, the plumbing plans and things like that weren't completed on it, so there's no indication of who the service is. But we were contacted by Midkiff and Associates. Gary Midkiff has been a planner around here for a long time, and Nick Exline, who works for Gary Midkiff. And they said, hey, we have heard about your guys' ongoing discussion, somewhat of a dispute with Lakeside in terms of water service in that area. Can we come over and talk to you guys? And so they came over, it was a couple months ago, and they said, hey, the developers involved in the discussions, and Lakeside Park is making noise, like, if they don't get to serve the water to the development, the residential type development on the 2nd and 3rd floors, the people who are up there won't get the beach passes that the people who rent, from the land again. And the developers indicated that he doesn't really think that the project can go without the beach passes. It's a real selling point for these units, I'm assuming these condos. So they said, hey, well, we go back and we talk to Lakeside about discussions that say, okay, the Lakeside will serve the commercial on the 2nd and 3rd floors, and you guys will serve some future the commercial portion of the development in the back over the garage. And if we can work out something like that with Lakeside, you guys are amenable to that. We said, well, yeah, it's like this, we had verbally had agreements that instead of an 80-20 split, the convention center wasn't be built, that whatever development happened there, going back to approximately an 80-20 split would be a fair thing. And so, yeah, we're open to any kind of discussions that would come along. Well, we haven't heard anything back, and now we got wind of these plans, and I guess the plans are just what the developer was looking for was a change to the commercial look of the 2nd and 3rd floors, and they were getting, before they finished the plans, they wanted this approval. So what we thought is, when we heard this, is maybe we should reach out to Lakeside and re-engage in those discussions. Because if you remember, the offer that Lakeside had made that we didn't necessarily agree with was that we were going to serve everything that happened on those 6 front parcels. So, and understand that the developer would be facing a lot of extra costs if he had to run a water line from the back side of the development area up to the front to actually bring Lakeside water to the 2nd and 3rd floors, because the plumbing is already installed and the water meters are already installed, including fire protection for going up the second and third stories, because that was always the plan. We had heard that was always the plan, and certainly the structure was built to accommodate that. But we didn't want to get out in front of you guys, and so we wanted to talk to you guys about that prior to making any phone calls. And I know when you had been contacted, and with the expectation that Lakeside was going to reach out to us to talk about the area, and that has never happened.
I kind of left it to the committee because I said, okay, we'll talk, we'll entertain most anything from here.
Because I was expecting to get phone calls from Bruce Grego. Mr. Grego was always involved in the discussions with
I
the
could ask
owners.
him again, I see him all the time.
So, so we wanted to bring it forward, and rather than me making a phone call and, start discussions of horse trading, I wanted to bring it to the board, for your consideration and direction.
I wonder who's driving the bus, the developer or Lakeside?
Just driving the bus at Lakeside.
Yeah, you're right.
We've never, when we've had those meetings with Lakeside, it's always been Bruce Grego and 2 of their board members.
Oh, that's...
And the board members change, kind of frequently, so there's really no staff over there to really talk to. It's really directly to the board members.
So let's see if I get this straight. You'd like for me to ask Bruce Grego if Lakeside would please contact the district and re-engage us as to what it is they want to do over there.
And actually, in terms of you're asking for direction from the board, I'd be curious to see what everyone else says. As far as I'm concerned, we go with the standing philosophy we've always had right from the start. We're willing to entertain anything they want to put forward, as long as they understand we are going to maintain a very similar agreement to that original 80-20 split.
Yeah, well, the original agreement for the convention center wasn't the 80-20 split. The 80-20 split really happened when it became as a direct.
Right.
The convention center wasn't going to go, and so they want to return to kind of 80-20 understanding, and that's what existed pre-2007, based upon their analysis of their flow records of the drop that happened at the production coming out of their treatment plant, and then comparing it to our metered flow. And it's also when you actually counted up the parcels being served, that was also about an 80-20 split as well. And so, so basically, that's why they had said, well, the 6 parcels represents 80% or 20% of what's there. One of you guys disagreed with that. So, so there's been a lot of movement, and we think it behooves the community and also the developers to not waste money running water lines here, there, and everywhere to try to accomplish the 80-20 when we could have just an agreement that says.
And my understanding is that these units are going to be anywhere from $400 to $3,000 a night. And if I'm correct in which development I'm talking about, so there's a lot of money on the table up there and a lot of interest in getting the project finished.
Are you talking about the whole project or just above the?
Just above the condos and all that.
Okay, so 2 things I can answer that.
You may know more than I do.
Do you know how many units are involved in the 2nd and 3rd floors? A question from
It would be like 8 units for the second, 4 for the third. I think these are 3 different units. It's a very large project. And it's like you had mentioned, I think the biggest thing is it's served by 2-inch meter now.
in order for Lake, and it's already stuck, the commercial frontage is already stuck out in water and sewer from the second, third floor. So for Lakeside to run a service from the back side all the way up to those units, it makes no sense whatsoever. So I think there's.
Beach access.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I
They might need to want to find another way to get beach access without having to have a water pipe.
Yeah. Well, you know, I guess one of the things just to be brainstorm here is, since it seems pretty obvious now that the convention center is not going to be built.
Right.
You know, and so and that was the one, I thought the major reluctance we had in you know, signing or agreeing, you know, in formally to approximate 80-20 split to recapture what was pre-2007. What if we, you know, are we at the position now of wanting to reconsider that, and putting in, if we put that on the table, maybe Lakeside would then be agreeable to give the beach passes to those units without having to physically serve the water to those units, since it would be a lot of extra money to the developer to bring the water line in to do that.
Correct.
So,
Well,
you know,
I don't know how to
that's
solve all their problems. I'd say, you know, their delay, and as Jim says, who's in charge, it's really been problems that some of the main people have passed away that used to be in charge. So all I can do is I'll ask Bruce Gregor what's going on and tell them that they need to get a hold of you and get this thing rolling.
Well, you know, I think that the paranoia was that we were trying to muscle our way into more than we had before.
They've always felt we were trying to take them over.
Well, you know, we had the whole takeover agreement, you know, all the bullets and points of light agreed to about 1994, before they built the filter plant.
Yeah.
And then there was a palace coup, and their governing body completely voted out, or members voted in, and then they looked at us like we were just the 800-pound gorilla, and we were forcing our way on them.
Now, you know, I still feel, and I've been told that my solution is not the best because we can't, where their withdrawal of water is from the lake doesn't necessarily benefit our water district that much, but I've always felt that in case of a fire, wouldn't it be nice to have our water rights perfected and to make a deal with them that allows us to draw water out of that pipe?
Yeah,
I really think that in the long run, we'll be happy we did it because PCE's not going away. It is surface water, yeah, but it avoids a lot of the contaminants that are in the groundwater.
And there is a slot for a third treatment unit that we could install in their water system, which would give us some additional capacity. And we would have to boost the pressure, because their system operates at a lower pressure than ours. But it would be a fairly cheap way of getting some water out of the lake.
Yeah, I feel really strongly that that's a once in a several generation opportunity for us to perfect our water rights and to get water out of the lake, especially in the event of a fire. And anything we can do that would protect us in the event of a fire, which is likely to happen, given, you know, we had the 4th of July fire.
Well, we already have a mutual aid agreement with them, and in the case of a fire where our tanks are all pumped down and our operating pressure then drops below theirs, we have interties that we can open and be served by their water.
Yeah, well,
So that's already in place.
maybe what I'm thinking of is not a good trade, but I like to make those kind of trades.
No,
Do they come to you and ask for a meeting, or do you guys will?
No, no request. No, Gary Midkiff and Nick Edsine came to us and said, hey, we're helping the developer get their permits. We were aware of this water service issue.
Okay, sorry, I heard you say that.
Yeah, so then, you know, they basically asked us permission to go to talk to them and say, hey, we wanted to talk, and, oh yeah, trade like that'd be fine, you know, it's like, you know, so we haven't heard. You know, so before we reach out.
I think we wait a while, see how that plays out. I know the developer went back to the drafting table because they were trying to figure out a new way to build what they're doing. Maybe.
Well, did they get the permission to Is that the decision been made by the city planning to change the outside, the look of those second, third stories?
I don't think it was necessarily changed the look of it. It was just, we found out by attending the building department meeting over at the city. We went over there, and when they showed it to us, that was the first we'd ever seen of it. We didn't even know this was in the works. So when we saw it, of course, we requested, anytime the city got more information, we needed a set of plans in order to determine what the fees are going to be.
So we made a city account.
Yeah.
There was no plumbing drawings.
There's no flooding plans, it was just purely architectural drawings.
Yeah, I'm not gonna picture yet.
Well, I've been with Richard earlier in the week, there's so many big things out there, we don't know what they're doing, we don't know what the development is going to be for the back, and you said, you just need to talk to them. We can't make any decisions at this point.
So I'm hearing a little bit of both. I can talk to Bruce, or I can just leave him alone. You think as important as it is to them, they'd be knocking on our door.
If I could make a recommendation, how about we leave it to where you just have a conversation with Bruce and say, we've been off and on been discussing this issue of the relationship of how we're going to deal with the further development of that parcel. And are you guys willing to discuss that yet, or are you going to want to wait until later and just see what he says?
Okay.
Because I mean, if you go back to
I'll tell him to call you.
we actually have a letter from him basically asking, basically for why, in essence, why aren't we willing to agree now to the 80-20 split?
And that was
About 2015, a couple of years ago.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so they,
I don't even know if their attorney still.
yeah, well, and their paranoia was, since we weren't willing to agree that the front 6 parcels would be all that we serve, that we were trying to basically grab their services. So, and I remember very clearly the decision was there's nothing to build, and the permit on that property was for the convention center. So we didn't want to, not knowing how that was going to proceed, we said, well, it was premature to agree to that. Well, I think it's unfolded enough that the convention center is really not on the table.
It just seems like all these projects are hurry up and wait, and then all of a sudden there's the doorstep, so what you gotta do is you gotta do
That's the
it.
world of the developers. I mean, anybody's going to deal with developers. It's always, nothing's happening, here, all of a sudden it's an emergency, and we gotta get your approval right away, tomorrow, and, it's like.
We're not the only ones that actually tabled their second phase, right? I mean, I've heard that, I don't know if it's true.
I think because, didn't you say that the Zolanta units that don't have a view haven't sold yet, and the ones with the view have sold, and so that's why they put it off phase 2. So they basically built half this horseshoe and have the back half that hasn't been built. We thought they were going to start construction, and then I guess all the units haven't finished selling, so they delayed.
It's only
Plans were all torn up.
It's only about 8 units. And then what's the other one they built, the Chateau or something? Okay. Anyway, so, I don't know if we raise our hands or not, I just want to know, I contact Bruce right now. Yeah. Okay, I'll do it. And I'll see what he says. All right.
Cool. Where are we at now? I'll cover B. There's absolutely nothing to report because they never show up to the meeting. So
we got a phone call before the meeting was actually over.
Did you get a phone call, but it was prompted by our phone call, though, right?
No, they called me and
They actually called, okay.
They all 3 had conflicts with the meeting, and they had accepted it. So we're gonna reconvene October 18th.
Well, the only comment I have on this is several months ago, I made the proposal. I said, if this is, it's once a month, it's fairly regular. If this is too time consuming, or you can't meet your schedules, we can go to every other month. Oh, no, we want to meet every month, no. Well, okay, We haven't met in 3 months now.
And they did, talked about that, they did move it to Thursdays, but Dirk drives back to Davis on Friday. So it was better for his schedule to meet on Thursday. So the rescheduled meetings are all on Thursday.
They got into a little dust up over who's doing affordable housing. And if you listen to it, Rick said, oh yeah, it was me, and I got our staff to write the ordinance to give it to the utility district. What? But the idea, I mean, I guess the idea to make it something
election
succeed,
anyway.
to make something succeed, you give the idea away, but I kind of choked on that one. But I don't think that was the way it was.
So is there any point in continuing trying to have them?
I think so, yes. I think that.
Let them set them up.
Would it not be better to wait till after the election and see who your new meeting partner is?
No change players, probably.
Yeah, we have issues that we want to talk to them, give them kudos for where their staff has cooperated with us, and in instances where things, have hit the skids or not proceeded, then also then be able to talk to them about that. So
overall, it's been beneficial.
Yes,
overall, it's been very beneficial.
Yeah, I was going to just add that, is I think in the last year plus that we've been doing this, things have really improved at the staff level and at the board level, and I think the amount of misinformation that's coming out of one side has decreased. So that's why I want to kind of keep that up. You can guess which side.
So I
learned a
totally
lot
agree.
from our deal today too, when I was looking at the ethics.
Yeah, I totally agree that we should continue these and have as many meetings as they can make on a monthly schedule.
I would just like a little more notice than that morning and the night before.
That was better than showing up and going.
Yeah, or showing up and sitting here.
We can't be sitting here. Who?
Well, she was very embarrassed when she called.
Yeah.
Well, I had one that I missed too.
Okay, do we have any board member reports? No? Okay, and I don't know, is there anything that happened with the Colorado County Water Agency?
The meeting was canceled.
It was canceled, okay.
John, any final update or current update on the?
Continue to work with the agency on the development of the MOU. And we've already identified about almost $400,000 worth of projects to reference with this MOU. So, but nothing finalized. I think it's with Fred, their counsel at this point. So I think we're getting close.
Okay, so Rich, I guess we move on to your report.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. And probably, kind of Shannon probably has some things, but I guess the report on PCE is a good thing. Good things are happening. We went. When I say we, ourselves, Lukens and the Talkies went. They gave us 15 minutes. And actually, they were on the board meeting under public comments. They actually gave us almost 25 minutes to make a presentation and to talk about the seriousness of the issue and to basically spell out, basically parallel activities that needed to start now in addition to their work with ERP, given the consequences of letting that PC plume just drift off. And we kind of drew a map and showed them that the community has almost 3/4 of its water supply north of Highway 50, bordering the lake, that potentially in the long run could be under contamination threat. And so it was received very well, and and we had a meeting with the staff the week before, and the things have already started to change. Lucas's grant application for PC treatment facility has already gotten unstuck and is now moving. We're actually filling out an application that they want by the end of the week for an emergency action plan, a 3-agency emergency action plan, where they've indicated that they're going to stuff under Lucas's grant application so it can be paid for by the state. And we met with the staff this week to lay out future meetings to basically check on, to make sure that the actions that we've asked for, aren't getting stuck at a new point in the process. Like one of the asks we were talking about was sentinel wells to be installed between the wells that aren't contaminated in the Lukens, Tahoe, and the district system, and the PC plume. They've indicated that that Lahana actually can pay for those under the grant monies that they're getting from the state board to continue to pursue this PC contamination issue. So it seems like raising the level of awareness of this issue is working, and so it will continue to be raised. I know Chris already has heard about it and talked about his meeting. You guys are certainly are aware of it at any time that issue comes up. Talk about it. This isn't secret information. It's what we want is you raise it to higher and higher levels in the community, and we think it will translate into action in Sacramento to get state money ahead of the RP process. The RP process is clearly, in fact, the Lahana staff, the way they put it is, at the meeting this week is, in the end, it's now under a lawsuit situation between Lahana and the RP. In the end, Lahana could lose and the RP could not be forced to pay anything. So we don't want our community to be stuck with the cost of the PC cleanup. We got to raise the level of awareness in Sacramento, and that's what's happening. So.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is a little bit about timeline. I think what we heard from the Lahana staff, it was that there's a strong possibility by next summer that we could have these sentinel wells out there that between us and the PCE plume that will be giving us identification of whether, an early warning system, if you will, that PCE is coming towards our wells. One of the sentinel wells we've asked for and that they've indicated, at least preliminarily, that they think they can pay for is to do not just a sentinel well, water monitoring well, but to actually do a test well at Colorado Court, is do that sentinel well, build it in such a way that it could be expanded in the future to be a water supply well. And so, that's one of the areas that we've looked at as being a potential source because of where it sits in our system. Our concern, of course, is the PCE contamination, and so it is a location that has potential real benefit for us as a district, and it would be fantastic to get them to pay for the testing and the installation of that initial potential water supply well.
Shannon, this is just a community member talking, but we do a lot of testing and finding out where it is. We kind of know, don't we? Don't we need more money just for extraction?
Yeah, and that's what some of this money for that Lahana is looking to get is to implement for themselves, to actually implement some of those measures. We don't know the best way to treat this. The three legs of the stool of this PC contamination process that I think of is dealing with Lahana, dealing with the RP, that feasibility study that the district and Lukens and Tahoe Keys have funded, that we've been going through with EVO, and then the third of these more recent actions to actually protect the water supply. That the plume extents right now, the way they're laid out is really a rough outline of where it's been detected. We haven't done a whole lot of wells outside of that area to see if it extends farther. We don't know that yet. And it's also a question of, and the studying that we're doing has so far revealed that the bulk of the contamination at this point is still within the first 50 feet of the groundwater. And there's some contamination below that from 50 to 100 feet. But you think about treating that first 50 feet, we could not permit, nor would we recommend doing a water supply well in 50 feet of groundwater. We need that to be much deeper so we can draw from a much bigger aquifer. And so doing a really deep treatment well and water supply well in that area wouldn't help us very much. So what has kind of come out as at least early ideas about treating this plume is to do a series of shallow wells to do extraction and treatment in that first 50 feet. That's not really water supply. It's not really going to actually draw enough water in to be that kind of useful program. So some of this study, I agree with you. Boy, sometimes we study the snot out of stuff and it doesn't help us. In this particular case, I think there's some real value in the outcomes of it, and we're continuing down those pathways, but we are always looking for opportunities where we can jump in and implement and eliminate or stop a bunch of the studying effort. An example being this most recent feasibility study. They drilled 2 wells over by Liberty Utilities offices. One was at 50 feet and shallow, and the other was deep at about 150 feet. And one of the things we've recommended is, listen, you got a 50-foot well casing installed, ready to go. Put some treatment on that sucker, treat it, and then just dump it into our sewer. Get some actual extraction going, do something.
Right, and what did they find at the deeper wells? Because my opinion is we must have a clay barrier or something. I'm real concerned about popping through that ourselves. I've mentioned that many times.
Yes.
But my guess is the reason we're finding it in 50 feet is there's a barrier.
Yes.
But I'll bet you there's spots where the barrier's been broken due to an earthquake or whatever. And so let's treat what we know is there and then go after whatever else is.
It's not a continuous layer, there's some lenses at different elevations so you can go around and
one of our proposals is these actions is actually to make sure that we have properly abandoned some of the wells that already penetrate that. So there are wells out there that have not been properly abandoned. That was some discussion yesterday. Both municipal wells and private wells that need to be sealed to make sure that we eliminate the opportunity for that transition to take place. One of the problems is the testing that's done so far with drilling indicates that that lens at 50 feet that goes along, as Evo would call it, the aquitard, continues along and then disappears at some point. We don't know exactly where that's at, or there may be for some reason a big hole, naturally occurring hole in that lens that is allowing some of this contamination to penetrate deeper. But the concentrations in that 150-foot level of the contaminant, much lower. I mean, orders of magnitude lower in the lower levels compared to that upper level. So the study, the analysis that Evo is doing with the assistance of our consultants is definitely, I think, giving us a lot of really good information. It is, however, something that this community has spent $1.6 million so far doing that work, and that we think going forward we're continuing to press Lahant and the Water Board and everybody else we can scream about this to, for them to bring money to the table, because we shouldn't be paying for somebody else's contamination.
Back to the original point though, one of the asks was get started on the cleanup and start pumping some of the PCF ground. Yes. We don't have to wait for the perfect spot. We know where a lot of it is, let's start pumping.
Pump where it's known and go explore where it's not, right?
Yes.
That's what I'm for.
I was at the meeting, I think everybody did a good job of selling the program. And unfortunately, it wasn't on an agenda item, so they couldn't discuss it. But it looks like you shook things up, and that's what's good. My thought was to make sure that we're on the agenda every time they're at Tahoe. And I think you even talked about going down to the next month meeting and
well, it's the next meeting is November and January are in Victorville, and then March is back in South Lake Tahoe. And we would have regular meetings with Patty and with Judge Smith and talk about whether we need to be on the agenda. They're thinking maybe not.
I think so, but we didn't get any thought or feelings from any of those board members. I think that'd be nice, and just to keep it up there up front, and even if it's just a short update, I think we'll be.
If necessary, I'm sure we can do that. They envision when we talked to them this week a sort of on the agenda formal update across the board on the PC efforts at the March meeting, in South Lake Tahoe. Well, no, but I mean, when we talk about it, things start getting stuck in the process. They said that's when we have our monthly meetings with Patty and Doug to see when, if somebody's getting stuck, to rally forces to go down to Sacramento and either have meetings with the state board people, state board staff, presentations to the state board. That's where we make decisions on how to do stuff like that.
We made it, I would say, abundantly clear in that meeting that we're not checking up in this effort. We're happy to go forward as long as we're making this progress and we see things going and moving the way we believe that they need to move. But when we run into roadblocks, we're going to be beating on people's doors and hollering about this and want to know why, what the problem is, who needs to authorize kicking down this roadblock. And I think they heard that message very clearly.
At one point in the staff meeting this week, where Shannon got Patty a little annoyed and tell her face kind of stepped back to the table. Yes. Shannon was kind of down to the table a little bit and going, we need to make sure we don't get stuck and let's get on the agenda. We're willing to do anything it takes to keep this process moving. That's what she said. She kind of committed to the meetings with her and Doug, that we already have scheduled on the schedule. Those are the meetings that we can identify the problem areas that are anything that's developing and how to address it.
And I think we need to have a discussion with their board, and have them respond, because, everything's going through her, and let's see where we are. After that session, I sat in on the Leviathan Line program, which is an ongoing thing. For 40-some years, it's been a problem. And
it's been sitting there 40 years, we're still studying it.
First time I ever saw that was in 1968, I think, or 69. And it was a mess, and they couldn't work on it all these years.
I think that's
a couple more studies, they'll get there.
The problem they've got is that they signed an agreement with ARCO a few years ago, and it ends in 2 years. And then they take over the whole thing, and they're talking about tens of millions of dollars, maybe $100 million. If we just had a portion of that.
But if you talk about it, they said an agreement with ARCO. Well, I wonder how forthright ARCO has been.
Yeah.
They've probably been like the RP, spending more money on their attorneys and their hydrogeologists. You remember back to remember with our attorney with the MTV trial? We said, we don't tell the oil companies how they run their oil companies. They don't tell us how to run a water district. We want the cash and we're not going to have any agreements with these guys on how to clean up MTV, how to deal with this stuff. We just want the money and we'll take care of the problem. See you later.
If I remember right, some of the Leviathan Line, some of that leaked over the Monitor Pass, because they're kind of connected.
It's on the other side of the road.
I know. In any case, it's ridiculous. We are digressing, except I'm just pointing out that they're not adverse to studying the study.
Yeah. And that's why I think we need to talk directly to the board, get them on record. That'd be nice to do at the board meeting.
Well, it was pretty clear that Patty Cronin was totally against that. To actually schedule an agenda item.
Why
in Victorville.
Why?
One of the things that she said that I think has some merit is that her board is not going to talk on the record because they're in the middle of a lawsuit with the RPs, and that anything they say could be used as evidence of prejudice. And so because they're in this regulatory role, and she thinks that they're not going to be willing to have a lot of forthright conversation and comments. She indicated there was a lot of conversation after the fact, and that her board expressed concern and that they want to see something done on this thing. That was my impression from our meeting.
It's been going on for 40 years, just like for a little time.
We're not going to let it run the clock out.
We don't have to go through the lawsuit.
That's a hard one.
Unfortunately, it's a state part of not.
I think
I'm sorry, we didn't hear that.
Sorry, Jim's comment was, we're going to continue on this thing for 40 years. And I think that RP, dealing with the RP, absolutely is going to go on for decades. The issue is, though, our intent is not to allow our water supply to be at risk without stuff being done. And there's money, there's opportunity to do that. And we're seeing some progress in that area. Whether we do next month or next week, I don't know, but we're going to keep pushing those issues, and we'll keep pushing on those roadblocks as they come up.
That's our report.
I feel better. Even though this is a difficult issue and we're kind of tilted the windows at times, I think that the staff here, and all you guys are doing a great job. I think we're doing everything we can. And I think because of your efforts, it's moving actually a little bit faster than a glacial pace. Not much, but a little bit.
I think that's well said. I don't want you to get the wrong impression. I think what I'm trying to do is give you our intent as a board. And so you have to, when you're in the room, you know how hard to push. We don't. You get the body language, but of course they don't want you to talk to them. They don't want them to know that they've been working on this all this time and haven't done anything.
Well, I do have to say, Patty was very accommodating, told us about the presentation on the public comments, extended saying if you request, instead of just 5 minutes, you'll be given 15 minutes, and in fact, we took about 25 minutes. It was the bell went off while we were talking, and we just kept talking, and nobody tried to cut us off until we were literally done with what we wanted to say. So, yeah, there was no attempt.
That's good. You guys are getting the right SDP to D attitude. Did you point your finger and smash it down?
No, I threw the pointer on the floor and it came apart while I was talking.
It's his version of a mic drop. It's your version of a mic drop.
Okay, geez, let's talk about snow removal.
Yeah, thank you for getting them all fired up, Richard.
All right, we're all mad now. What do you want?
Yeah, I know, exactly. Wednesday, September 12th, Jeremy had set up a meeting with the fire chief out of Fall Leaf Lake. And we met with the fire chief, Tom Craven, there was an HOA representative out there, and another gentleman from Stanford Camp. A little bit of history here. When I first started working here, Dwayne and Jim, you probably remember, the Fallen Leaf Road was never plowed. The only way we accessed it was with a snowcat or with a snowmobile. But back then, you didn't have anybody living there year-round. You only had a couple people going in and out of Stanford Camp to maintain it over the winter. About 10 to 12 years ago, Tom Craven started plowing the road, and everybody pitched in a little bit of money. The district, we pitched in $5,000, homeowners $5,000, etc. And the main reason he did it was because his mom and dad lived back there at the end of the road past the fire station. Well, since then, his mom and dad evidently have both passed away. His mom just passed last summer, I believe it was. And he doesn't want to do it anymore. He's got some old equipment. The main reason, like I said, he did it was for his mom so people could get in and out if they needed to. So the fire chief is real concerned about it, and so are some of the property owners that live there, because they've kind of gotten used to the idea of staying there year-round. And to be honest with you, we've gotten kind of used to it because now the road's always open, and if we've had problems like we've had in the last few winters, we were able to access it with hydros, camels, whatever we needed to get back in there and get the problem fixed. So the meeting basically was to try to figure out something on continuing to have the road plowed. And the fire chief had contacted the county. It is a county road. It's not county maintained, but it's a county road. They did come in after that one winter, year before last, and fixed all the washouts, redid some culverts, but they don't want to plow it.
They say it's not theirs to plow. So the fire chief put a little pressure on him and found out that everybody out in the county pays a tax for snow plowing and snow equipment purchasing for future, all that, like I think we do here in the city.
The parcel fee.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. The county seemed a little reluctant with the fire chief, and basically their answer is that they're checking with their legal department on this, and they won't even have an answer probably at least until February.
They're collecting parcels for snow removal, but they don't want to remove snow.
Yes.
Yeah, and legal's gonna hopefully give them a way out.
And I found out recently that the fire departments in the other parts of the county get significantly more money from the county than our fire station.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not just fall leaf, but it's the rest.
Yeah. So, as of right now, the county's pretty much out of it until we hear back from their legal counsel, which I'll get to some other things later on here. But Stanford Camp said that they're willing to help plow snow. But unfortunately, there's not very many people that have big enough snow blowers that can handle all of Fallen Leaf Road, especially if there's a 2 or 3 foot snow, or there's several different storms of 1 or 2 foot accumulations, and then you start pushing them to the side, then you gotta come in and widen it. So the blower that they have is basically like what we have, a driveway blower, maybe a mini parking lot blower. So some of our concerns are, if the road isn't open, we have to use a snowcat to get in there, like we did years ago. And our snowcat, I believe, is like in the early 1980s. And going back and forth out there in the 90s was rough. So it's even worse now as far as reliability. You can't really haul a whole lot in it. It's fairly small. We would not be able to get trucks in and out of there. But then again, if the road's not open, I have a feeling that the majority, if not all, of the residents are just going to find a different place to live for the winter. The one gentleman that was in there representing the homeowners association said that he was going to go down to Carson and rent a house for the winter months. But everybody would like to see this road kept open. So we could also spill and probably not be able to do much about it because we can't get in there with other than a snowcat.
What about that Bobcat to get water?
The Bobcat will get back and forth in there.
That'll get in there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But
I realize it's got limited hauling capacity, I get that.
yes.
Where that thing out though, wouldn't it? I think.
It would, but you know, then we have to pay for it, but we're still back to where if something happens out there, we can't get a hydro, we can't get a vacuum truck out there, that type of deal. It was brought up that, just off the top of their heads, if everybody pitched in and went with a private contractor, if we could find one that has a big enough blower to take care of it. Blades, things like that, you see them in all the parking lots all over town. Right off the top of their head, they believed it would be roughly around $60,000 a year, which would be split between homeowners, fire chief, us, and whoever else may be involved. They've asked us to, pardon me?
Get the county.
Yeah, county. So,
Can we clarify this? 60 as in 60,000.
Yeah, so that's a big difference. If you only got 3 partners, let's say, that's a big difference for
You bet.
$5,000 a year.
You bet.
Right?
Yes.
You know, and Jim said the county, which would be, they should be a partner, but you can't count on that, so.
But you can check them out with it.
Yeah, well, they should. It should and will are 2 different things.
Yes. The fire chief and homeowners association rep that was there, believes that they can come up, or we can all come up with a solution to everybody pitch in to have this road kept open. But unfortunately, he said it was too late in the year for them to have a board meeting or get all this in line where we have access to money also from them. So basically, long story short, they were looking at us because we have equipment. And we've gone,
But do we? You just said we didn't have a blower other than.
no, we have a blower big enough to take care of it.
Okay.
But the concerns we have is it will benefit us to keep the road open. We asked Gary if we could shut down the system out there for the winter, to shut it off. You know, Stanford Camp would basically be the only people out there, just a few guys working. I think he fell off the chair when we asked him if we could shut it off. They are paying customers. Yeah, we probably should have just did it and asked for forgiveness later.
But I'm worried about the liability. For instance, well, if we were going to do the immigrant trail, you know, when we had the big slide on Highway 50.
Oh, yes.
And the Forest Service and those guys said, yeah, you could do it, but then you'll be liable for the repairs on the road.
Yes.
And so, you know, some legal issues are laying out there.
It's a major concern. It's definitely a major concern. Some of the options that we've come up with, and please add to them if I've forgotten something, but some of the options are, the fire chief is putting pressure on the county, but maybe it would help a little bit more if Richard, Shannon, maybe some backing from the board, to get a hold of somebody there at the county and maybe put a little pressure, just explain what our needs are and what this is going to do to us if we can't get back in there with trucks and whatnot. He has just been speaking with staff at the county. Yes, has not done to Cell or anybody else that we know.
So that might be a good next step, is to, she probably doesn't know about the situation. So
She may not. That's why we figured one of the best options, number one option, is to see what we could do on our end as far as nudging the county a little bit or maybe explaining a little more detail about what's going on out there.
And if we were to do it, I think the best thing, this is Gary's bailiwick, but let them contract with a private company and we pitch in so that the homeowners association takes the liability in case something goes wrong.
And
there, in my mind, we just pitch in.
I agree. I don't want the responsibility of getting this road open, taking care of a contractor.
Or a plow tearing the road up and responsible for the damage.
Yes, pitching a rock into one of those houses.
Well, there's so many dips, you know the road, there's so many dips and curves, you don't even know where the road is half the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So if the road's not accessible, effectively, there's no one gonna be out there, right? I mean, that's kind of what you were thinking at when you first started talking.
Years ago, there was not, other than, like I said, a couple people at Stanford Camp.
The Cravens lived out there year round, but they parked their car, you know, in the Angora neighborhood,
yeah.
and then they rode a snowmobile, and they were in there year round.
Oh, okay.
They always were.
But yeah, the only ones I knew that would go out there for any extended periods of time would either go on snowmobiles or skis.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't, but I wouldn't consider that other than the Cravens,
Yeah, no,
resident.
well, Cravens were the only full-time residents that I.
Right.
And I don't know if that's changed or not, because there's a lot of people, like I said, used to it. There was a lot of talk about people utilizing snowmobiles, snowcats to get out there anyways. The one gentleman I referred to earlier, he said he's just going down to Carson Valley and renting a house for several months. The other options, the biggest problem right now is, like they said, they didn't have enough time to get a hold of all the homeowners and come up with a plan before the first snowfall. So we could pay for the plowing with an outside party, seek reimbursement. That was another option. This option we're not really fond of, but even if nobody's out there and we get I&I or water comes out of a manhole, I still think that's going to be considered a spill. So we want to keep that in mind when we're going over some of these options.
We did have a lot of I&I out there 2 years ago.
Yes. So just keep that.
And we lost a generator because of the avalanche. We had all those issues. We lost the pump station. Pretty big issues. Pretty big spill.
No, I get it, we need access, but I also like your hesitation with being the lead on this. I really think there's other people. I mean, the fire department people. There could be something going on out there that they lose. You know, there could be who knows what. They get a fire and they got to get out there.
Yes.
You know, to me, they have a bigger concern, and the county just has general county issues they should be. So I don't have a problem participating. I just want to see other people stepping up.
They are. The only reason that they're really looking at us right now like I said, it's because it's late into the season and getting everybody together with all the money and all that to get a
Yeah,
contract.
you know how that goes. If we say, okay, just this season because we're the only ones that can do it, guess how hard it's gonna be to get off the hook once we're on it.
That's why I'm here in front of you today with their
Motivation to get ahead of this.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, so all of a sudden it's all plowed, well, great, things are working great, you guys at STPUD are awesome. You know? Yes.
So why doesn't the county want to do it?
Money.
Yeah, they didn't want to.
Get into that.
Gary, the fire chief out there had alluded to them having to road all their equipment out there. But they're right up on top of the mountain anyways, if they're on Dundee Circle, up in that area, so it's just a matter of coming down and starting to plow in. Now, Gary did mention something about on the west shore, there's a subdivision or something over there that the county takes care of. They park a blower, they park a grader over there for the year, just send a gentleman out each year, or each snowstorm to plow. So that was brought up, but then he got some kind of an excuse that, yeah, we had money budgeted for that neighborhood. I just don't think they're looking at fall and leaf as much as they would it being a neighborhood here in the county.
They're looking at the same thing, there's not very many people out there,
Yes.
there's a lot of money.
Well, and they're also,
I believe that's what.
they're also thinking in the past, like most most entities do, you're stuck in habit. The habit's been that it's a summertime place only.
So it's a safety issue
Yeah.
then because of water, sewer, and fire.
Yeah.
So why could it be like, maybe like a public-private co-op where maybe they chip in some cash to the county to have a plow guy out there when they need them, and then kind of takes us off the hook, and we maybe have to chip in some money for
Yes.
plowing the road from the county, but the county's still plowing the road, and we're not on the hook for something
Can you
else.
say that again, have, like a public-private co-op where we
So
have
everybody
to
gets
Offer the
together.
county a little cash and help keep that open.
There's no money, there's more money out of fall and leaf than.
That was
Probably why they're all
discussed.
rich, is because they
Yeah,
have,
but that's not gonna do, that won't convince them to go up there. It's helping save
their
money.
homeowners association has got money.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, they were not trying to get out of it. He was just looking at us to help keep it open because we have equipment until they get it organized. But I'm still kind of leery about it. I think we all are.
Hire a contractor.
Well, I think the first option that I talked about, put pressure on the county supervisors.
a good place.
And if you have to, you sweeten the pothole maybe even, and see if that's
Whatever,
something that's even possible.
whatever's feasible. We are dealing with public money, so we do have a lot of issues with some of this, and I want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Or their chief, I don't know, CAO they call him. I would have Richard call their CAO and just say, hey, we have an issue out here. We've got one of your county roads that,
Wouldn't you
now
think
you
you
can
would
plow
start?
it.
I started to see.
I've sort of seen those.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Maybe.
She's gonna be over.
She's also up for reelection.
See me discussing that.
Yeah, does anyone want to go to the candidate forum and stand and say, what are you going to do about the fire safety issue on Only Playground?
Mind if I ask that question?
Please do.
If I get an
If
opportunity?
you get an opportunity, just
Okay.
say, you know what, I've heard that the Only Playground is no longer to be found in the winter in the cities, and the county, while collecting, parcel fee taxes for snow removal, has
There's
been
not trucks out there, sometimes hiring us. She is aware of it too.
Oh, she is.
Gary, the chief of Fall Fire, has been talking with them.
Okay.
It's talking with.
Okay.
Well, maybe bring it up to, on our behalf.
If the opportunity presents itself,
In front of us.
you guys are okay.
And if it doesn't, maybe a phone call or something for Richard or whoever to kind of, spur that going. And I don't know, maybe the person Dwayne was talking about, the
CAO, I think they call them. They're not their, I don't know, it's their county manager, they just don't call it that.
So Chris, if let's say that doesn't work,
That's what my next question was gonna be.
county fails, says no way, then if you were going to put someone in charge of making sure that road got plowed, how much do you think it would cost if you were doing it on our time?
including equipment.
Our crew
I
doing
wanted to
it?
know a ballpark, I mean, it doesn't, exact.
Our crew doing it?
More than $60,000? I mean, what if it snows every day for a month? It's gonna depend on the snow. I mean, I think the first, well, depending on the size of the storms.
Right.
I think if it's there's smaller storms, we can get in there with just truck blades. But eventually, you're gonna have to get in there with a blower. Now,
It freezes up 5 awful miles each way.
yeah, as far as the blower that we own, it's an old blower, we bought it used. I think that's an 80-84. It works real good. Cliff has done a great job keeping it going. The problem is all these years that we've had it, nobody really wanted to operate it but me.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, right? Is that it's too heavy
It's
for the loader that we have, so it tends to raise up the back wheel, am I right?
Oh.
So we have another loader on its way. I believe Cliff came up to you guys. Which we went a size or two bigger to compensate for that and any
With the loader, yes.
So it's going to depend on the year. And as far as having somebody that experienced to do it, I'd have to say that probably myself and Cliff are the two most experienced.
But you think it's important enough, we gotta keep moving.
Well, I would also point out, as far as our staff doing it, there's one location in the district that a road that we plow currently, and that's up to one of our Christmas Valley Tank Road, because of the agreement that we made when we built the tank up there and purchased it, we said we got to do this. And so that's the one place on non-district property that we plow, am I correct?
Yes.
And so we got guys, our guys are really good, but at the same time, they're not snow plowers. And again, that issue of pitching a rock through somebody's window, or somebody's parked their snowmobile and it's covered up, and we run over that thing, and we damage these other properties. All of those issues are also out there that we should be aware of. That there's the cost of doing it, but there's also liability and risk associated with taking that action.
Well, the one out there in Christmas Valley, we did it as kind of as a favor, and now they expect us to do it.
It's an agreement that we have.
It's become, yeah.
When we
Say it in the access to it in favor.
Yeah, we actually are bound by contract, yes.
But we have to get to that thing.
Yes.
So I think we ought to look into seeing if the homeowners association will contract with a snowplow contractor that we pitch into them on, so that they have the liability.
Or somehow get the county, because see, the county can run over a car and damage it and not be liable. The county can tear up their roads and fix it themselves. I like the idea of incentivizing the county was to maybe private money behind it.
That's the first choice.
Yeah,
I believe in my opinion, I think
It's worth their time to get a piece of equipment there with the guy to do it when it needs it.
To me, that would be the first choice, to put some pressure on there, explain a little bit about what's going on. The second one, I agree. We can pay, or get them to try to do it, but there's a possibility they won't. There's a possibility.
Could we make it through the winter without plowing the road? I mean, I realize we can, but are you willing to take that risk and not being able to get a camel back there or something like that?
Are you willing to take that?
If it's not plowed and you need to get back there in emergency, how long would it take the blower to just run up that road? A day?
If it freezes, it can.
No,
Couple days?
when they opened it up, they were telling, well, it had been sitting all winter.
Right.
So, but it took them a week or so to get it open.
Took 'em a week.
But that was after the whole winter though.
Right.
If you kept on up through it, or kept on it throughout the winter, you can make it past in a day down.
The way that, I think there's a private contractor that keeps Kirkwood open, I mean, I think they have a private contractor with big equipment that they use for that neighborhood up in Kirkwood. It would be interesting to see
Yes,
if that's still the case. I don't know if it's still is.
I have no idea.
And that used to be damaged.
I just want
It was, I don't think it's.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is.
Or they have a lot of big equipment on big over it, and
yeah. I mean, there's several people we can talk to, and try to get this going, but
Again, I'd rather have the homeowners, the firemen hire them and we chip in.
well, see, now that's the right thing to do, and I agree, but I don't know how fast that'll happen. And if the snow starts flying, are we all willing to accept the fact that we're just gonna get in there?
We tell them we're gonna commit some money to it, And for them to hire somebody and we're gonna commit some money, we probably can go pretty fast. We need to explore some options first. So we're looking at the county first, yeah, where I see it.
Yeah.
The county first. Secondly, we look at a private contractor that we all pitch in for that they contract with. But we'll try the county first and see if they're would commit a piece of equipment.
Yeah, and they are willing to take the ball and run with it. Like I said, the only reason that I'm up here talking now or discussing it is because of how late it is into the season.
No, and I'm glad I had no idea this was going on. I'm glad you came.
Given that it's September, can we do those two actions you just laid out, Dwayne? Can we do those in parallel?
Yeah.
You okay with that?
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the least liability for us and then we go from there.
I completely agree. And quite honestly,
Liability for change.
in my mind, are probably the wealthiest community in this area.
Yes.
And we're going to be paying to plow their road.
It bothers me a lot.
Sticks in my craw.
And believe me, I don't want the liability of going out there and having to maintain the road, but until something happens, like I said, are we willing to not have access to the snowmobile that doesn't go fast?
Let's do a little more groundwork first before we start to have to make that decision.
Yeah, I'm just mentioning it so that way you guys have the whole picture and keep everything in mind as we go forward with this.
Yeah, come back to us in 2 weeks and we'll have thought about it and we'll start making contacts with, he can make contacts with the county, we'll make contacts with the county.
And then I'm on vacation starting tomorrow.
Oh.
I thought you said it for the door.
Well, then we'll get some work done.
What I'll do, Jeremy has been doing really good with the fire chief and everybody out there with the conversations. So we'll have Jeremy get a hold of the fire chief and tell them that we would like them to start looking around for private contractor and see what we're talking as far as money. And of course, we're willing to pitch in, but we're not willing to take over everything. And we'll start with that, and then in a couple of weeks, we'll see where we are, and we can come back and report again.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Oh, that's true too. He probably might be some of the check.
Greg does, he does Cascade Estates.
And he's already out there on roads just like that. Exactly.
So after we, that's all.
Yeah.
There is options. I just wanted to get these options taken care of or do what we can to get things rolling before the snow.
Going back, there's a giant blower sitting in Tommy's yard that probably belongs to Ricky Ray.
Oh, really?
I'm not certain, but I think I saw one the other day when I was driving by.
Oh.
And I bet that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Greg's been doing work out there at Fallen Leaf. He was doing a project, I know that too.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah,
I've known Greg for a long time.
He was doing something out there.
Yeah, I've known Greg for a long time, so we can contact him or give the fire chief the information about contacting him or help a little bit. But we definitely don't want the liability. We don't want to be in charge of who plows that road.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that.
So I just want to point out the conversation that Gary and I are having, that he putting words in his mouth, but thinks it may be worthwhile to look at the requirements since they are paying the county a fee, that if the county doesn't have an obligation to do that. He said,
I think that's what the county's attorney's looking into right now.
Yeah, it'd be great to have that.
I think you do it faster.
Like you said,
Just each of the fire, each of the fire stations or districts gets a certain amount of money from the county, but our Lake Valley Fire is like 1/3 of the amount that the others get. Why? Just because we're here. And so that issue.
Also, a lot more residences down here. They got 4 supervisors on that side.
You're right. But we're the
We've done that for a long time. We're a net income source for the hospital.
You're right. This is anyway. But anyway, it's evidence of that.
Okay, so the issue we have is you guys will contact the county. I'll have Jeremy get with the fire chief and get the ball rolling about them looking for a private contractor.
Yeah, perhaps give them some names. And if Jeremy wants to, I think, if I understood correctly, if Jeremy wants to make some calls to people like Ebright that we have relationships and explore around, that would be great as well.
Okay.
That one I don't have.
I think I would start with Tom, since you said there was a blower sitting in the yard.
I could have sworn, I'll drive by there and double check, I think there is.
Okay, so Shannon, because of this long meeting we had before this meeting, you have 3 minutes.
I hope you be less than that. At the next board meeting, we will, on the agenda will be a contract with Verizon to authorize them to build the tower out here behind the plant. That's all I got to say.
They're gonna pay us money, and anyone that attaches to that tower pays us money, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's $3 grand a month, and then we get to